Have you ever been tempted to or wanted to perform either the bullet catch or some other illusion to put yourself in real danger, not theatrical danger, but real danger?
The general answer is no. I think the more I learn and research, I spent about 5 years researching various tragic magic angles. And where I come out on that is that I recognize that I think it's a human flaw in all of us. It's the same impulse that has us watching trashy reality television of people with fractured lives and bad things happening, and we delight in their misery and so on. I think it comes from that sort of place, and I just don't want my work to reflect that. But to answer your question specifically, we filmed a TV pilot at one point. Sadly, it never aired, with the bullet catch. And it was one of the scariest things I ever did in my life. I did it in LA at a theater in LA, a one-time performance only thing. We had policemen there to mark the bullets and fire. And it was, I was chained to a post and catching it in my teeth. And it's super nerve-wracking, even when you're doing what all these other performers did, which is take precautions so that it doesn't it
Hmm.
doesn't actually have to be dangerous, but there's always that risk. And
Yeah.
so much of the time, particularly with the bullet catch, what's scary is that you don't have all the control. I do needle swallowing, which, if you do it properly, is a very safe trick to perform, but it's all on you, right? And I just talked to a performer not even 2 months ago who had to go to the emergency room because he violated the one thing you can't do when you do the needle swallowing trick. And I was like, why on earth would you do blank? And I don't want to say what it is because there is a secret to this illusion. But he just was sort of like, I don't know. I was psyched out. I was sitting there saying to myself, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And then he did that. It's like the one thing you don't want to do, but he did this. And so I do needle swallowing, and that's an amount of danger that I'm willing to accept, and you take precautions and you follow safety guidelines and you're going to be okay. But with the bullet catch, you do have somebody pointing a loaded gun at you, and it's just tough.
Hmm.
So, what advice would you give to a magician out there listening who's thinking about doing something that might be a little bit on the dangerous side? What would you tell them?
Frankly, I would tell them don't. As the person who's perhaps done as much research as anybody else on this arcane topic of magic that is dangerous, I can tell you that none of the people who failed thought, yeah, I'll probably risk my life. They all thought they had it under control. They all thought that it couldn't go wrong. And I would look at more nuanced and better ways to raise the stakes. I started off by saying that I think that this impulse for danger comes from raising stakes, from trying to increase the drama. It is the easiest, most crass way to raise the stakes, but it's not the only way. You can tell a really amazing, true personal story. You can position the audience to think one way and then surprise them by having it turned around and be totally different. There are other ways to raise the drama than danger. And I think it's a very good exercise to learn how to develop those theatrical muscles rather than danger.